Alright, so page 6, we're going to start with number 61. We're going to solve this system, but I'm going to do it using substitution. So I'm going to take this 4x plus 1 and move it in for this y. So we're going to have 4x plus 1 equals negative 2x squared plus 4x plus 3. Then I want to get everything on the same side, so I'm going to move everything to the left-hand side. That means I'm going to add 2x squared. I'm going to subtract 4x, that's going to cancel out both of these. Then I'm going to subtract 3, and 1 minus 3 is minus 2 equals 0. So it looks like I can divide by 2. I'll have x squared minus 1 equals 0. Then I could factor this. This is going to be x times x. That gives me x squared, and a positive 1 and a negative 1 gives me negative 1, which means my two x values are going to be 1 and negative 1. Now I'll still need to figure out the y values. So if I plug a 1 into this equation, 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. If I plug a negative 1 into this equation, 4 times negative 1 is negative 4, and negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. So my two solutions are the point 1, 5 and the point negative 1, negative 3. That's where this parabola intersects this line. Number 62, we're going to find a quadratic equation that goes through the following points. So this is probably the easiest to do with a graphing calculator, because you can just, let me clear this, you can just go to Stats, Edit, and edit a list. I'm going to clear what I have currently in each list, and then I'm just going to enter the x value, which is 1 and 3 and 4, and I'm going to go enter the y values, which is negative 4 and another negative 4 and then a 2. And then if I go to Stat and Calculate, I'm going to go to Stat, Calculate, and I'm going to do a quadratic regression line. My a value is 2, so this is going to be y equals 2x squared minus 8x plus 2. Moving down to 64, 63 we took off. It's not a good question. 64, solve the following absolute value and write your answer in interval notation. So I'm going to start by adding 5 to both sides. I have 3 times the absolute value of x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 18. If I divide by 3, then the absolute value of x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 6. So then I'm going to write two separate equations. X plus 2 is greater than or equal to 6, or x plus 2 is less than or equal to negative 6. And it's an or because this is greater than. So what I'm going to do is subtract 2 here. X is greater than or equal to 4, or if I subtract 2 here, x is less than or equal to negative 8. Alright, so I'm going to write it in interval notation. So let me graph this first. This is negative 8 and this is 4. It's going to be a closed circle at negative 8 and it's less than that, a closed circle at 4 and it's greater than that. That means it's going to go from negative infinity all the way up to negative 8. And then it's going to go from 4 all the way to positive infinity. And these should be brackets here because it includes the 4 and it includes the negative 8. Let's move on to 65. It says write this, or what is the vertex and y-intercept of this parabola? Well, the vertex is at the point negative 2, 5. The y-intercept is whenever the x value is equal to 0. So the y-intercept is going to be 0 something. Well, to figure out what that is, I'm going to plug a 0 in for x. That's 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, and negative 12 plus 7 is negative 7. So the y-intercept is 0, negative 7. Let's take a look up here at 66. Is x plus 2 a factor of that? Well, in order to figure out if it's a factor or not, I'm going to put a negative 2 here. Then I'm going to have a 2, and then a 9, a 7, and a negative 6. And I'm looking for a remainder of 0. So that's 5, that's negative 10, that's negative 3, that's 6. And so yes, it is, because I get a remainder of 0. The mean of a set of data is 16 and the median is 20. Explain what you can about this data set. Well, that means that there must be a bunch of low scores pulling the mean down, which means it must be skewed left. And then number 68, match the graph with the corresponding correlation coefficient. So graph number 1, it's positive. It's a fairly strong one, so I'm guessing that that's C, that's 0.75. And then this one looks like it's still positive, but it's not nearly as strong. And so maybe it's not even positive, because all these other ones, oh no, here's a weaker one. So it's got to be E, which is 0.4. And that is page 6. Hopefully that made sense.